Hello, boys and girls, and welcome to another drawing tutorial. Today we're going to be using three three-dimensional shapes, the cube, the rectangular prism, and a cylinder to create this. Rowdy Robot. Alright, let's get started. Make sure you have your trusty pencil or pen or fine felt tip marker. And this time you're going to need a ruler, and it doesn't have to be this small, but I find this size ruler is a little bit nicer because it's easier to move around the page. Okay, so we're going to start off by making a square. I'm just going to do one vertical line. Not too big, and you don't have to measure it, but let's call that line maybe an inch and a half. And I'm going to do another line parallel to that. That's the exact same length. Now, if you're not sure what parallel means, it just means that it's running in the same direction. Then I'm going to do a horizontal line on the top and bottom of this box. Now, if you're not sure how to make nice straight parallel lines, take a look at the edge of your page. I like to use the side edge and the top edge of my page as a reference for which direction the line should run in. From here, I'm going to create a diagonal line from the bottom right corner of my box, and it doesn't have to be too long, maybe even a little bit shorter than the other four lines I've just drawn. Then I'm going to use the exact same angle, and I'm going to move up to the top right corner and draw the same length of line in the same direction. So two diagonals running parallel to one another. That means they run in the same direction and they're never going to meet. I'll close that up with a vertical line, and already you can see another face of my cube. I'm going to use the same angle. I'm going to make sure that I start that line at the right point. Should be the same length as the other three, and then I'll just close it off with a nice horizontal line. And there you have it. You've got yourself a nice three-dimensional cube. Alright, let's move on to the eyes. So I'm going to start with two circles just about where you want the eyes to be. Now, hey, feel free to make your robot have three eyes or just one. But I'm going to do two. From here, let's make those eyes three-dimensional. So we're going to have to turn them into cylinders. And to do that, we're going to use the exact same angle that we used to create our cube on our cylinders. So if you need to, you can take your ruler, find that angle that you used, and we're going to use the exact same direction. We're just going to do a tiny little line on one side of our circle, and then at the top of our circle we're going to create another small little line going in the same direction. And from there we're going to use the curve of that circle and close it off. Let's practice it again. So we're going to do straight little lines moving in the same direction, and then a little curve. Now, because those lines are so small, I didn't use my ruler for the second time. Let's go one step further and draw a little circle inside of each of these cylinders. And to make it look as though they're hollow on the inside, we're going to follow the curve of that cylinder. We're going to draw almost the back face of that circle, but just inside of the eye. Alright, from here, I think we can move on to giving our robot a mouthpiece. So I'm going to use another rectangular prism here, which means I'm going to start off with a rectangle. Make sure you leave some space on the side of the face so that we can create a three-dimensional shape using those same diagonals. Alright, let's find that diagonal line. We're going to bring it over to the bottom corner of our rectangle, just a little one. We're going to do the same thing that we did for the cube that we made our head out of. And then we'll use the same diagonal here, and we'll create the top face of our rectangular prism that's going to make our mouthpiece. Okay, now let's do exactly what we did here in the eyes. We're going to hollow this out. So we're going to draw a tiny little rectangle inside of the front face of our original rectangular prism, leaving just enough space around the edge. Okay, now to hollow out this mouthpiece, just like we did with the eyes. I'm going to draw the back face of this rectangular prism. That's really just two little lines, one going vertical, one horizontally, and then we're going to use that same angle to connect the corner of the mouth. And there you have that. So let's move on and add some more features to our robot. I think he's going to need an antenna up here. So we're going to start with an ellipsis. That's going to be the base for our antenna. An ellipsis is just a circle in perspective. So think of it like a tight oval. Now from here we're going to follow the bottom edge of that ellipsis to start making it into a 3D cylinder with two little vertical lines, and already it looks as though it's popping up out of the robot's head. From here all we need is one more cylinder to make the actual antenna. And I'm going to put that right in the middle of the ellipsis. And instead of the top of a cylinder here, we're actually just going to draw a nice little ball up top. Let's call that a sphere. Though really it's just a circle. And I'm going to color this in to hide some of the lines that ended up overlapping. Alright, now let's do one on both sides of the head. So again, a nice ellipsis, or a circle in perspective to start off our cylinder. Follow that curve of the circle again, and then just connect it to the ellipsis with two horizontal lines. And already you can see that same cylindrical shape copied. We're going to create another little antenna here with a ball on the end. And just like I did before, I'm going to color in that antenna to hide some of those overlapping lines. Alright, let's do the other side here. Now this one, most of the cylinder is going to be hidden, so I'm just going to do two little horizontal lines and a curve. And that will give the impression that the same shape is popping out the other side of his head. And if you pay attention here, my ball is actually overlapping behind our blacked out cylinder that's making up our antenna. And there you have the head of our Rowdy Robot. Okay, now let's create some shoulders for him. So I think we're going to use a neck first. And let's copy that cylinder that we have that's popping up out of the top of his head. So we'll do a little vertical line coming down from his head, and we'll do another one on the other side, and then of course that curved line to show off the bottom of our cylinder. And there you've got a neck. So let's move right onto his shoulders. We're going to do the exact same thing we did with his head. A nice horizontal line, maybe make that a bit longer. From here we're going to go for that same diagonal line, the exact same angle, up and a little bit behind that corner of the head. From here we'll do another horizontal line that's going to run right behind the robot's head. And then again, look at that angle, it's exactly the same. Not long enough here, I'll just connect it. Okay. So you've got your rectangle in perspective. What does this shape look like? Points if you shouted it out. That is a parallelogram that's making up the top face of his shoulders. Imagine taking a rectangle and just shifting it so that it looks slanted. Alright, from here let's create those vertical lines from the points of our parallelogram. Remember to use that exact same angle every time you're connecting so that it looks as though that face is moving backwards or away from you. We'll do another vertical line and then of course connect them horizontally, and there you have it, another bigger rectangular prism that's going to make up the body of our robot. Okay, so let's take a look at that cylinder that we've used for the neck. We're going to continue that straight down the body. So we're going to do some vertical lines that line up with that cylinder. And then, just like we did up top, we're going to use that bottom edge of a circle, that upwards curve, to give the impression of a three-dimensional cylinder. I think from here I'm just going to color it in so that it's consistent with the rest of our cylinders. If you want to, you can save this for coloring later. Okay, now that we have the spine of our robot, I think he's going to need some hips. But instead of another rectangular prism, let's go for another cylinder. So we're going to need the top face of this cylinder, which is what? If you said ellipsis, you got it right. It's just a circle in perspective. And from here, just create those vertical lines. And then you guessed it, another bottom edge. So follow the same curve you created for the top edge. And there you have it. You've got yourself a nice cylindrical base for your robot. Okay, from here, I think I'm going to do that vertical cylinder again, but it's going to be a bit smaller. All I need are two vertical lines and a curved bottom. And I think from here I'm going to create an even smaller cylinder poking out the bottom of this one. So again, two little vertical lines and a curve. I think that gives him an interesting shape. So from here he's going to need some way to move around, and I think we can take this cylinder we've created and turn it on its side to make a wheel. So again, we're going to start with this ellipsis, but this one's going to be vertical. So a nice ovular shape. And then on the opposite side, we're going to follow that curve. And then, easy enough, connect them with two horizontal lines. And it's starting to look like a wheel. Okay. Now from here there's going to be some kind of connector from that wheel to his spinal cylinder. So we're going to create little ellipses on the face of our cylinder. And then we're going to do another little one here, poking out. And from there, a simple curved line should do. Curve right up and around to the other side of the wheel. And just connect it to the cylinder that's making up his spine. And then I think some details on that wheel. Maybe we'll give it a tire tread. So we're going to follow the curvature of that ellipsis that's making up the top face of our cylinder. We're just going to do a few of them on the inside of our cylinder. These are called lines of contour. These lines follow the shape of the three-dimensional shape, and it gives the eye the impression that it is 3D. It tells the eye how the shape is actually formed. Alright, from here he's gonna need some arms, so let's create some shoulder joints over here with a simple little ellipsis. So that's where his arm's gonna go, but I don't think I'm gonna create a straight cylinder here. I'd like his arm to bend. So I'm just gonna create one curved line, and then just like we would draw a cylinder, I'm gonna start at the top of that circle, but instead I'm going to be a little bit more free-flowing. I'm going to curve that line around, maybe even taper his arm in. But just like a cylinder, I'm going to use an ellipsis to show the face of his wrist. Now I'll color in some of that arm to hide some of those lines that are overlapping. If you want to do this with a pencil crayon after, that's totally fine. And there you go. Like they were never there. Alright, let's create another arm here. I think this one's going to curve upward instead. Two curved lines that almost come together, and then just like a cylinder, let's use that ellipsis to make it look three-dimensional. Give it a quick shade in if you like, otherwise save it for your markers. Okay, the next step is to create some hands. So this shape is going to be using rectangular prisms, but we're going to fit them together to create a shape that doesn't quite look like one. So I'm going to start by creating a V shape, and then right inside of that V, I'll do another V. Then I'm going to bring them back together to create this claw-like shape. Now notice, if I were to break this down, this is 4 different rectangles, but I fit them together to create this claw. And now to make them 3D, we're going to follow the same principles that we used for our rectangular prisms. If you want to skip this step, by all means. Or even, give your robot a different type of hand. Okay, let's do the same thing here. Start off with that V. This time I'm going to come right in. That's the same shape, that claw-like shape. And from there I'm going to turn this into a more three-dimensional shape. Just create the inside faces. Try to use the same angles as the rest of our robot. Okay, there are his hands. I think the finishing touch on our robot should be something on the face of his body. And this is a great chance to practice our cylinders and our cubes. So I'm going to start by creating a button made out of a circle, 2 lines, and that back edge to create a cylinder. From here, a bunch of cubes. Now remember, it's the same shape as his head. So I'm going to do that over and over. A square, 3 diagonal lines that all move in the same direction, 1 vertical line, and 1 horizontal line. I'll do the same thing again. This is great practice. A square, 3 diagonal lines that all move in the same direction, 1 vertical line, and 1 horizontal line. You do enough of these and you'll be able to draw cubes in no time. And remember, once you can draw prisms like this, you'll be able to build pretty much anything with a pencil and a piece of paper. From here, let's put those buttons on a box. So we're going to put a rectangle behind these buttons. Make sure you leave enough room that the buttons don't interfere with our horizontal or vertical lines. So just draw that nice little rectangle around them. And from here, guess what? The exact same diagonal lines. Small little ones from each corner, and then connect them just like the cube in the rectangular prisms before, with a vertical and a horizontal line. Oh, very nice. It looks like those buttons are popping right off of our robot. Now underneath you can draw whatever you like. Here I think I'm going to create a voice box with, you guessed it, another cylinder. So draw yourself a circle, those 2 diagonal lines, and another curve. And I'm going to create some screws over here. And there you have it. With just 3 simple 3-dimensional shapes, we have built a robot from scratch. What else do you think we can make with just cubes, rectangular prisms, and cylinders? Alright, let's see what he looks like when he's colored. The color palette's pretty simple for this one. I just use a blue for our robot's metal and colored it nice and light, and yellow for our background. Any of the other details are really up to you. I chose red for those little nodes on the ends of his antenna and green for that button box, but it's totally your call. Thanks for drawing with me, guys. Remember, if you want to see more of Mr. P's wacky characters and you want to continue drawing with me, please like and subscribe for more videos. Until next time, happy doodling.